Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the different variants of Burning Abyss going into the 2019 WCQs. Pretty much every Burning Abyss variant from the last video that we talked about that was meta is now irrelevant, just sort of a budget deck or just sort of a weird deck you could play just for fun, but if you're planning on winning a tournament, you really shouldn't be playing. This is due to the meta shift that Dark Neostorm has brought. Mystic Mine makes Sekka's Light decks significantly worse, and also the options offered by Phantom Knights and Orkest are just really too great to be overlooked. The first one we're going to talk about is, in my opinion, most likely the best variant of Burning Abyss for this format. It is very likely the deck I'll be playing at NAWCQ, and that is Burning Abyss Orkest, kind of a Phantom Knight engine there as a side note. Just going to call it BA Orkest for simplicity. So what this essentially does is give Burning Abyss a much stronger going first board. Sekka's Light Burning Abyss was in essence a going second deck. Your going first board was more or less Beatrice Pass. Sometimes you could go for the Summon Sorceress opening, but we don't even have that anymore. Now, with the synergy that Cherubini gives us with the Phantom Knight Rusty Bardiche and giving us access to the full Orkest combo, we now have an extremely good going first, actually, one of the best in the game. You can have 5 interruptions off of any 2 level 3s. You can special summon any 2 Burning Abyss monsters, and you will have 5 interruptions on your opponent's turn. That's a dramatic turnaround from the looks that we were having from Burning Abyss variants just a couple months ago, even just a couple weeks ago before Dark Neostorm. Meanwhile, we still have maintained a pretty good going second. Last format, the Danger Orkest deck was pretty well known for its OTKs. Similarly, it still remains a very good going second deck despite its very strong going first. So game 1 is pretty good all around, I would say, for this variant. And Burning Abyss brings some unique things to kind of the Danger Orkest deck by including Burning Abyss monsters. Of course, we have the whole interaction between Cherubini, Graf, and Seer. Any 2 level 3s is not just, Nightmare and a Mermaid. It is the Rusty Bardiche. It is the Orkest combo without really any other extenders. You get to set both Fog Blades. You don't have to search a Shade Brigadine in order to finish the combo if you don't have another extender. This is all just purely 2 level 3s combo. If one of those level 3s is a Graf or a Fiendish Rhino Warrior, or you do have a 3rd extender, then you get the full PK Orkest combo plus a Beatrice, so that would make it 6 interruptions. Not totally necessary, maybe a bit over the top, but it is something that Burning Abyss brings to the deck that the base variant does not have, and it is, a good way to often seal the deal against certain decks. It is going to be one of the pricier variants of the deck. I do recommend having Dangers. They're absolutely not necessary. You can play other cards like the level 3 Psychics. You can play Mathematician and Edge Imp Sabers. You can play pretty much any level 3 engine you want to in place of the Dangers. Again, you just need 2 level 3s, so whatever you've got, you can slap in there, and it's a very, very strong deck. Cherubini is around $25 right now, but you're going to need it regardless of what variant you get. Dingirsu is around $30, $35. A little pricey, but you really only need 1 in the Burning Abyss variant. You don't absolutely have to have it. I really love the card, and I really recommend that you play Dingirsu if you can. But if you can't, you can play Longirsu instead, and there is a slightly worse ending board with Dingirsu, and you bring back Galatea with the symbol skeleton instead of the Dingirsu to search your crescendo. And of course, Longirsu pops 1 card, a linked monster. Dingirsu is more generic, just pops a card and then also triggers Bardiche for 2nd pop. So you're really only giving up 1 card destruction, and it's a little less generic, but it's also $35 cheaper. So, leave that up to your own discretion for what you want to do with your money. But I would most definitely recommend this variant the most if you're willing to, play the Orkests. I know some people are against Orkests, just kind of on principle. So unless you're one of those people, I definitely recommend this variant above all of the others. Next, we're going to briefly talk about the World Chalice variant. It's sort of a new deck that's being innovated, and it's kind of unclear exactly what it's going to look like in its most powerful form. I've seen a lot of different looks of this variant. Some of them are essentially the BA Orkest deck, but with a few extra main deck monsters and the Ib and Guard Dragons in the extra deck. The only main deck requirements for some sort of Guard Dragon-y combos is the Guard Dragon Justicia, you Lee the World Chalice Fairy, and you need World Legacy Guard Dragon, and optimally you need Carbonettin, which is sort of the cornerstone of this deck. With the introduction of Cherubini, you can now send Carbonettin to the graveyard, which can be banished to summon the level 2 tuner Guard Dragon Justicia, which allows you to go into Ib, the World Chalice Justiciar, which kind of leads you into a whole bunch of kind of World Chalice-y, Guard Dragon-y combos. It's kind of an extension upon what you can normally do. It adds a couple bricks to the deck, but it could be argued that it's worth it. I've seen some other variants that cut the Orkest engine altogether. Sometimes you even cut Phantom Knights, lower Burning Abyss count, and it's more akin to doing sort of what the Crusadia Guard Dragon deck does. It kind of looks a little bit more of a halfway in between hybrid between BA Orkest and the Crusadia Guard Dragon. There's a lot of different ways to play the deck. I'm not a super huge expert on this, but I have seen it around YouTube, on YGOPro, on Dueling Book. So clearly people are testing it. Some people think it's quite good. I haven't played with it too much, but this is an area in Burning Abyss where a lot of innovation can still happen. So if you are a Burning Abyss player who really likes innovating the deck, trying new things, trying to get a really new, cool variant going, you know, look at some relatively uncharted waters. I think that the World Chalice Burning Abyss is definitely a worthy challenge. If you could get it to work optimally, I think it may even pass the normal Burning Abyss Orkest deck. Then again, you do introduce more bricks, so maybe it's better to, you know, just kind of almost craft an entirely different deck, a very different look. I'm interested to see where World Chalice Burning Abyss goes. Next deck we're going to talk about is just sort of the Phantom Knight Burning Abyss. This is much more stripped down compared to the previous two that I've talked about. It doesn't play Orkests, it doesn't play any of the World Chalice stuff. It tends to play slightly higher counts of Phantom Knight cards instead of playing, you know, 2 or 3 Phantom Knights. Monsters, it'll play, you know, 6 or 7. It'll play maybe more than just 2 Fog Blades. It'll play 3 Fog Blades, maybe more traps. It's very common to see Break Sword in these sorts of variants. Its core game plan is actually fairly similar to BA Orkest in the sense that it wants to make Cherubini to then go into Rusty Bardiche, but it has a little more space for tech cards and just sort of interesting, yeah, I guess, like I said, tech cards. Essentially, the BA Orkest deck is pretty full. It's just sort of extenders, and then you have your PKs. You have the core PKs, and you have this big Orkest engine that can be, you know, 7 cards or more. And so there isn't a lot of space for weird stuff, especially, you know, in the extra deck. So the Phantom Knight variant, I would say, is the most flexible of the 3 that I've talked about so far, just because there's more room for non-core cards. You know, you can definitely fit in some tuners, play some synchros in the extra deck, and play more Xyz monsters like the Break Sword, the Dark Rebellion. So I don't think this is quite as strong as the BA Orkest, at least, you know, at face value. It's going first is a little weaker because it's not going to have that crescendo. It's not going to have the Dingirsu. You still have a fairly basic setup with Bardiche, 2 Fog Blades, more consistently end on Beatrice. So it's definitely good. Has a fairly intimidating going first board, but not quite to the extent that the BA Orkest will. Also, I do have some minor concerns about it going second because it doesn't play Orkests. You can try to fit in the Destrudos and stuff to make up for it, but I think generally Burning Abyss, Phantom Knights, kind of in its more pure form, the only reason you would really be playing it is for kind of a safer, less disruptible, grindier version of the deck. I don't think it's really that much cheaper than BA Orkest. So yeah, the only real reason to play it is for that kind of grindier, safer version. So I'm not sure that Destrudo is really the direction you necessarily want to be going anyways. But yeah, so those are the main variants I think we're looking at in the meta. I'm going to briefly talk about Sekka's Light, just because those were all the variants we were talking about as far as being meta last time were Sekka's Light variants, and man, the card's just gone. It's really, really bad against Mystic Mine. The problem with all of them is that it's a going second deck, which is first of all not very good right now, especially when we have Danger Orkest now has a very good going first. Besides Azathoth, it has a more consistent, just kind of all around good opening that isn't so linear, one-dimensional. And we also have, you know, Thunder Dragons are still around, Sky Strikers are still around. Speaking of Sky Strikers, you know, they run Mystic Mine. It's not just Mystic Mine Burn. If you're running Sekka's Light and just all monsters, it can be very, very difficult for you to get around Mystic Mine. And even if you don't main deck any Speller Trap removal now, at least it's fairly easy to side into a bunch of it because you're not running Sekka's Light. Sekka's Light variants typically actually really struggled to side in a lot of spell and trap removal because your entire deck was centered around having lots of monsters as extenders. You know, you're using the Orbital Hydralander, you're using Gallus the Star Beast, those kinds of things. And just between, you know, just kind of a shift in power and what Burning Abyss can do, spells and traps are very important to both Phantom Knights and Orkests. And also just the pure existence of Mystic Mine makes these decks very poor. Also, you know, just going first right now, we lost Summon Sorceress, so we don't even have that opening anymore. Pretty much the best you're hoping for is Beatrice plus maybe Orbital Hydralander, and that's the absolute best it gets, which is by no means going to be good enough this format, considering a lot of decks have many, many extenders. A single Farfa, or even a Farfa, and a single Destruction may not be enough if those decks open decently. Kind of some other side notes. Dinosaur Burning Abyss, I like to bring it up. They got Miscellaneous Saurus back. I still don't know if that's going to make this deck good. The ultimate problem Burning Abyss dinosaurs have always had is that you're always kind of playing one or the other, which works better in a slower format where actually flip-flopping between the engines can be quite effective and gives you a lot of different options in certain matchups. But in a very, very fast format like this, I don't really see all the benefits of running two engines that you run reasonably exclusive to each other. It's pretty difficult to get Beatrice and Ultimate Conductor on the same field at times. Also, Infernoid Burning Abyss. Infernoid Burning Abyss, I feel like, continually gets worse. It was definitely, I think maybe the best version of it was sort of a Sekka's Light deck. If you're playing the Void Feast stuff, it's probably better just to play Lair Infernoid, which is a more stun control variant, which has some decent meta matchups right now. It's been bubbling a lot of YCSs. I'm not seeing too much from Burning Abyss Infernoids, but I'd be glad for someone to prove me wrong on that one. So I think those are all the variants I want to talk about. Of course, you know, there's a billion, you know, really weird, tiny, strange variants out there, but those are some of the main ones I've been seeing or have been interested in over the last few months. So make sure to go in the comments, tell me what you think of the different variants. Are there any variants that you think I should have talked about in this video, or you would like me to talk about in future videos? I'm sure there's probably some variants somebody out there is testing that I have not seen yet, so I'd be really glad to hear about that. And, you know, just tell me what Burning Abyss videos you'd be interested in priority. I did that poll a little while ago, and all of those ideas are probably going to be actualized within the next few weeks, but I'm always open to new ideas, and I will see you guys later. Bye.